well as post-release. We also work with their families to support them while folks are incarcerated and also during their reintegration time. I think the other unique thing about OAR is that we are, in addition to working what we call downstream, which is in our direct services program, we also like to talk about working upstream, which is working on legislation and advocacy and the root causes as to why people come to see us. At OAR, we believe that the root cause why people come to see us is anti-Blackness in this country and anti-brownness. And so at OAR, we are pro-Black. We are an organization that believes in deep love. We're an organization that believes in radical joy. And we are all about creating a liberatory experience for people. I'll leave it there.
Mike?
Wow, it's hard to follow that. So I'm Mike Williams. I'm the director of the Prince George's County Returning Citizens Affairs Division. Our division is only 2 years old. And in the 2 years that we have been in existence, our goal has been to build what we call an ecosystem for reentry that will allow the men and women who come back to our community to be successful when they get home. So our county executive, Ms. Angela Alston-Brooks, and you saw her on the screen earlier, she created our division as kind of a bridge. And the bridge was between government, private sector, our faith-based communities, our nonprofits, because we all have a part to play in this. And so that's what we want to do. We want to bring people together. One of the criticisms about our county's reentry system prior to me coming on board was that there were no services. And that just simply was not true. The problem was all of our services were in these silos, and everybody was doing their own thing. There was very little coordination and communication. And so what we've purposed to do since we started was to break down those silos. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think it's going to be exciting. One of the things that I do want to clear up, we aren't a program. We are a convener. And I think that is an important distinction between what we do and what some may think we should do. Someone has to be kind of at the point to bring everybody together. And our county executive's office is the best place to do that. And I think under her leadership, we've been able to begin that process.
Awesome. And I met this brother Lamont when I was at the White House, and so proud of his story and what he's doing in DC area. And so Lamont, I don't want you to hold back, but take your 3 minutes and also tell them a little bit about who you are and what you've done and all that good stuff.
Hello everyone, my name is Lamont Carey, Executive Director of the Mayor's Office on Return to Citizens Affairs. I'm also a returned citizen. I started that journey at the age of 16, dropped out of school, got in prison, forced to go to school, got a GED, never thought I would do something like that, got in the college program, and then recognized that the things people I would have killed for and died for wouldn't even write me a letter. And so immediately, my frustration, I'm thinking, I'm gonna get back, I'm gonna come home, and I'm gonna cut up. And then somebody had told me that if I go home with that kind of attitude, I'll be right back with a life sentence, or I get killed in the street. And so I realized that my life was fiction. And so I started writing books, and I ended up writing 14 books in prison, enrolled in the college program, and they was talking about supply, demand, distribution. I realized I knew that from the streets, right? So my slogan became, keep your hustle, but change your product. And the day, and today I'm the director of the Mayor's Office on Return to Citizens Affairs, the first legislatively mandated agency that strictly focuses on return to citizen, and it has to be led by a return to citizen. And so I think all of that brought me to this work, but in the search of more freedom for myself is what keeps me in this work, because I want the men and women who live in the District of Columbia to have as much freedom as possible. And so my real task is to advise the mayor of barriers that exist for a returning citizen and to assist the 4,300 individuals that walked in our agency last year. But what also makes us unique is that we have strong returning citizens in our community. Before all these barriers were removed, these were individuals like Eric Weaver, Mr. Tyrone Parker, Mr. Marcus Bullock, that despite the barriers that exist, they still were able to thrive. And so I enter this agency on their shoulders. And then I have an amazing Director of Operations, Ms. Jordan Say, that's in the front row, right? And so with all of that, we don't sleep. Because we don't sleep because right now, there are a minimum of probably 13 to 20 some people that's entering the district with no idea what they're gonna do. And all they wanna do is be successful, to stay free. And so it is our responsibility to aid them in accomplishing that. And so that is at the core of what we do, is try to give people as much freedom, as all their freedom as we possibly can.
Awesome. That's powerful, man. If you didn't write his name down, you better write his name down. Hey, Elizabeth, listen, you guys have been talking about ecosystem. Michael talked about ecosystem. You talked about getting out of silos. Can you explain how you want to erase the stigma of not working together? Because that's the biggest thing that we have a lot of times when it comes to grants and programs, that people are not working together. And here you guys are doing it because you guys are making a difference in this area.
Yeah, we're actually very lucky. This is our 50th year anniversary for OAR, and also our partner who's in the one of our many beautiful partners, Guest House, 50th anniversary for both of us. And there's just many other organizations that we have been really lucky to be able to partner with and create a true kind of collective experience. It is critical for us to look at it both, as I mentioned a moment ago, from directly working with individuals and supporting financially, et cetera, them and their families, to then also the legislative and the approach that way, which I think it is our belief that we have to do both. And so the partnership there is different, but we're very grateful for the partnerships we've had. We've been able to build over this 50 years of service, and we do that by just really being clear that we believe that the folks who are connected to the criminal legal system deserve an opportunity to come back home and be successful, that we have the same dreams and love and experience and goals, and that we're missing out on all of that if a person is incarcerated. So we really want to reduce that and then ensure that people don't actually end up going to begin with. So at OAR, I think one of the things I didn't mention was we do alternative sentencing and diversion programs to ensure that folks don't go in, and that program is hugely dependent on partnerships. Over 300 other nonprofits, judges, and court personnel, et cetera, that we really need to be bonding and working with. And at the same time, being the force that talks about, you heard me say pro-Black. Not a lot of people say that, right? And so we have to be at the table. You used this earlier when we were talking. We have to be at the table, and we have to make sure that what we're talking about impacts everybody in the room. And so at OAR, we really are intentional about talking about liberatory experiences, racial justice, and that the answer is to be pro-Black, not anti-anything.
Michael?
So the work that I'm attempting to do here, I didn't start, it wasn't my idea. So you gotta give credit where credit is due. And so Prince George's County has the benefit of the wisdom of Dr. Ron Garrett. I don't know if he's in the room or not, but when I came on board, Ron talked to me about this collective action model and bringing people together. And so it got me to thinking and trying to imagine what it would look like if we all shared the same goal and the same agenda. Because what happens too often is that because people operate in these silos, everybody has their own agenda, they have separate goals, but how can we come together and operate from a shared perspective? And so that's what we've been trying to accomplish. And I say trying because we're still relatively new. And so we don't have the 50 years of experience. And it's new. I think some of our partners in the county, they kind of bristle at the idea, well, this is what we've been doing. Because they've been doing great work, but they've been doing great work in their own individual lanes. And so what we're trying to figure out is, hey, we could do even better work if we can come together. And it doesn't have to be around all of it, but let's just pick a few lanes. I can't just take one. Let's find a few lanes and let's work together and let's travel down that road. Excuse me. We are fortunate that we have partners throughout the county and even in the District of Columbia. So when things get crazy, I call Lamont and I say, hey, bro, what's this look like? Or help me figure this out. And he's been so gracious to take time and to kind of push me along the way and help me figure it out. And then and all these other partners from the District of Columbia, from neighboring counties in Maryland, you on the list now, Elizabeth, they're helping us to figure this out because as a new body, a new entity, we can't do this alone. And others have traveled this road, they've built successful ecosystems, and so I want to lean on the experience that people have, and then we incorporate that into what we're doing.
Awesome, Lamont.
So for me, coming into this office, it's a lot of noise. I mean, you inherit enemies where you've never had them before, right? And everybody has an opinion on what you should be doing. And so the first thing I had to do was learn where the bathroom was at, right? and calm myself, because this work can be, I mean, at least from working directly for a mayor, when I've never had a job outside of my own business, right? And so I had to calm myself first to hear me, right? What does this work look like to me? And then I had to recognize that all of the agencies and organizations and the newbies that's trying to get in this space, they're trying to get in here because they're trying to make a difference. And instead of trying to, what I've seen in the past, is that people trying to bring everybody together and then name it, all of these organizations under one name, when all of these individuals have been building their brands and they're not ready to surrender their brand. And I saw that's what caused a lot of them to not collaborate. And so I tried to be intentional in collaborating them on the needs that they have, as well as making sure it's not just transactional, but that we are operating with the same goal of helping the men and women who need us the most. What we say and how we engage them could impact the next decision that they make, because I think one of the unique things about my agency, it is not mandated for individuals to come. So they walk-ins, right? But now we got some judges that's making them mandated to come because of the work that we're doing. But I'm gonna have 19 staff. There's no way that I can operate in a silo. And so I start reaching out to our partners. When I come across grants that they can apply for, I'll send it. Things that I think will be beneficial to them, I give it. And so it's an exchange with the whole goal of helping people to reintegrate back into our community, helping people gain their right to vote, helping people get records expunged or sealed, helping people try to get clemency, like helping them reunify with their families, but first helping them learn how to settle, because families put a lot of pressure. Like it seems like within 3 months you expected to come home, get your ID, get a job, and move out of my house. But it don't operate like that. We got individuals that came home that did like 50 years, that never walked outside with their shoes off to feel the grass, but we expected them to get in and just push out productivity and just like they've never been nowhere, but that ain't the truth, right? Our people been locked in cells. Our people have not received visits. Our people are struggling from so many things, just the mere fact of being in a cell with somebody that they don't know if it's planted there to take their life. So our people just can't come home and walk into this level of success that we hope that they will, but they want to get moving. And so it's my responsibility how we bridge the gap of making all of that happen, right? And so that is what collaboration looks like for me. What is it that you want instead of the things that we believe that they will accept returned citizens in. And so one of the things that we changed, and I'm gonna shut up, is no longer, because most of the time they say, I just want a job. Nah, we ain't gonna burn our relationships over that one. We done tried that one, right? What is it that you wanted to do when you was in that cell? And then I know if I can call Mr. Weaver, if I can call Marcus, if I can call Mr. Parker, if I can call Mr. Petty, right? Because I know these are the different lanes that they are experts in, and I connect our people to those people, right? And so that is what collaboration looking like to me, the individual that comes into our office that need a real second chance.
Awesome. I got 15 minutes. I got 15 minutes. I'm going to dig real deep down to what we call SWOT analysis. You highlighted all your strengths, right? We know what some of the weaknesses are out there. We know what some of the opportunities out there. What are some of the threats? Like, for example, legislative body getting tougher on crime now, trying to be reactive and not proactive, right? And we starting to hear some of that language again, right? Being tough on crimes, they saying everything except predators again, right? So how can we, as a body, look at ways of being at the table and controlling those reactive decisions so that we can continue the good work that we're doing and don't get stopped or unfunded or close a position? So Elizabeth, since you're the only lady on the panel, we're starting with you.
Okay, thanks. I think, yeah, legislation is clearly important. One of the things that we've found here in the state of Virginia is that we're really playing defense right now because of who's at this table, you know, like because of the governor, because of all the unfortunate situation that we have going on. So but you have to play defense also, you know, and so even though we're not getting our bills passed and those kinds of things, we're at least stopping other things that would be more harmful. So I would say that legislation and all of that is always a threat. I would say that systems in general could, have been built to fail Black people and brown people in this country. But to be clear, we are all part of that system. And so individuals make up systems, so we can't always just talk about a system failing us when we have been complicit in either allowing it to happen or actively happening, right? So I think that's an important piece too, and that's a threat. I think funding is always a threat. You know, we're a nonprofit, and for those of you who have worked in the nonprofit field, you know that every year you have to figure out how you're gonna get your money. And so that interrupts everything that you do. It interrupts, how many grants you can get, it interrupts how many people you have to lay off. We had to lay off half of our full-time staff at some point. And so, rebuilding after that is it's incredibly difficult. So I think all of those pieces are things that are threats and opportunities. And I think lastly, what I always see as an opportunity for all of our organizations is ensuring that the people who are being hired as volunteers, as team members at work, actually have direct shared lived experiences. All of our team members have either directly themselves been incarcerated for a number of years or have experienced discrimination, racial discrimination or substance use disorder, every single one of us. And we believe that the community knows what's right, and so an opportunity for all of our organizations is to ensure that we have the right people sitting at the table, making the right decisions with everybody else in mind as well.
Awesome. Mike?
I want to just respond to something that Elizabeth said. I think it's important. So I didn't tell you anything about my personal background, but this is my 30th year working in this business. I've worked in every aspect of criminal justice, from corrections, probation, parole, pretrial services, and now I'm working in the reentry space. The system is not broken. The system is operating the way it was designed to work. And so it was created to do exactly what it's doing. And so now our role becomes being disruptors of the system. And if we don't adopt that as our mantra, then we just keep on spinning our wheels doing the same thing over and over again, which, as we all know, is the very definition of insanity, right? So the thing that I think is the biggest threat, so our young people are disenfranchised, they're disgusted, they've given up. Many of them, not all, of course, but they've thrown in the towel. And we've got to disrupt that, because we heard this earlier, prosecutors and our politicians are seeking longer jail sentences for younger people. That is a major threat to anything that we want to do. And so we have to figure out a way to disrupt that. And so there's language going around, no entry, as opposed to re-entry, no entry. Imagine that. Imagine if we could stop the pipeline of young people coming into our justice system and and losing their freedom, losing the freedom that God gave them. I think that is the biggest threat, and that's where, if we have to spend our energy, that's where we get the biggest bang for our buck. So my job is reentry, but I'm inundated with requests and calls about, Mike, what are you gonna do for the young people? And I'm saying, I don't know yet. We're gonna figure it out though, because that's important. That should be a part of our reentry strategy. No entry. Let's stop these young people from going in. And at the same time, supporting and helping those who've been in when they're coming out. It's a twofold task, and one can't ignore the other. And so I think that when you talk about what the biggest threats are, I think that's among them.
So there's several big threats for me. One is that I think we have to teach our communities how to be adults in our communities. Because a lot of times I go to meetings and I hear seasoned individuals say, when I was coming up, my neighbor used to, and then my parent will, right? But we ain't neighboring. We will talk about a senior raising her 11-year-old grandchild and her 7-year-old grandchild, and we'll say she shouldn't be taking care of them. Look, they're outside, they're not even in the house, and versus us saying, ain't it time for you to go in the house? And so sometimes we watch our children become the things that they become because we don't intervene. And I'm not talking about intervening by jacking them up, just acknowledging them, making them visible. I remember one event I was at, it was a young guy, he said, man, they acting like they care about me in there, but they ain't even speak to me out here, right? And so, and then the community, is what they believe is happening in their community is really happening? I had a conversation with one resident, and he lived in the community, I think, 27 years. And she's like, Director, I'm just so afraid of the young people, right? And I'm like, they used to sell drugs, but they sell drugs right across the street from your house. How many times have your house been broken into? How many times have your car been shot up? How many times have anything has happened to you? She said, none, right? I said, so you have become fearful of the people in your neighborhood that has never done anything to you, but let me tell you what they know about you. Everything. They know your schedule, they know your secrets, they know who you creeping with, they know all of those things. And so we put in our head that things that is plastered on the news is always inside of our community. So that's one. Educating our community, getting our community to become honest about what is going on in our community, making our kids visible, but also making sure that we are exercising or fighting for the right to vote, right? Because when I'm at the table, right? And if I'm pushing for something and it can't get done, if my peoples are not reinforcing that this is what we need. And so I think we have to strengthen our people at the ballot, like the gentlemen that I mentioned in here. In DC, we have the right to vote whether you in the community or whether you serving 17 life sentences. So what this says is you can almost vote the better conditions inside the institution and vote your freedom, right? And so I think we gotta exercise the right to vote. We gotta always be aiming for how do we get all of their rights back? How do we empower not just the returning citizen, but him and her being able to reintegrate with their families? And so in some of the communities that where all the crime is, we know a lot of these people are receiving services. And so I think we can do a better job at targeting households that we are already engaged with. If the kid ain't going to school, we know this. All right, let's send them resources to their house. The parent has been on getting public assistance. How do we empower that parent to be a dreamer? How do we remove the fear? And I'm gonna shut up. Another thing that we run into, Not that our people want to stay receiving public assistance, but they believe if I go out and I get a job, I'm gonna lose my voucher. If I go out and I get a job, they're gonna cut my food stamps, not knowing that the job that we help them get, one check is gonna be way more than they're getting from the government every month, right? And so I think we have to work to remove fear, because our people don't want to be confined to poverty. They think that's the only way that they can survive. And so I think it's up to us to help remove all of those barriers, and I think that'll transform our communities in ways that we want to see.
Awesome. I got 5 minutes. One of the things that we deal with a lot is collateral consequences, right? Industrial occupation license, birth certificate, social security card, all those things that are needed when a person come home. How can we, you got a lot of people in this room, you have the 400 Commission on African Americans here, you have directors here, you have members of NABJA here, you have leaders that can make a difference in those areas. Talk to them about how we can make it seamless so they can get those things done. Elizabeth, I have to start with you again.
I mean, I think I agree with what everybody's saying in terms of, you know, people lose their documents, that you should be able to get your documents while you're still incarcerated so you can come out right away for whatever you need, you know? So I think that certainly is something that would be ideal. In the state of Virginia, you should not lose your right to vote. You should have access to parole. I mean, I think there's just so many issues that we have a group of individuals who've come out of incarceration who gave us 40 specific legislative needs that they have, and that would have made a big difference in their lives, or that will make a difference in people's lives. And so at OAR, we advocate for those 40. So I'm happy to share a list of 40 things that people who are directly impacted would really like the world to look like, you know?
So
and change.
Elizabeth, we want to get those 40 things,
Yeah.
we want to pass them around to the African American community and others, because as you say, it doesn't hurt to be unapologetic of who you're trying to serve.
Absolutely.
And so we need those 40 things. Mike?
So real quick, in respect,
We're going to set up a way to get it. We're going to set up a way to email it, and I'll work with Carlisle and Abby to make sure that we can get it. And everyone that signed up will get those legislative issues to get to you. We'll make sure that happens.
that's great. I wanted to.
Okay.
I'll email you. One of the things that I think, and this is a great example, the state of Maryland last year passed a bill that would allow returned citizens, convicted felons in some regards, to get gaming licenses so they could work in casinos, which is a middle-class job, and high-paying jobs, and great jobs. There's no enforcement. So what we need an enforcement arm. There's no sense in passing legislation without an enforcement arm to make sure that happens. And so if we remove the barriers, excuse me, for licenses to be plumbers, to be electricians, to be barbers, and hairstylists, whose job is it to go to make sure that employers are honoring that, right? And not making up reasons why they couldn't hire these people. Because that's what happens, right? We send, and I won't name the casino, but we've sent people there looking for jobs, and there's always a reason why they can't get hired. And I think we have to figure out, how do we enforce what the law says? So in this case, the state of Maryland legislature and the governor did a good thing. They passed the bill. Now we have to figure out, how do we enforce that? So I think enforcement is going to be critical, even if we get the bills passed.